So we have been digging into so many of the allegations that David Grusch has made, and we had to dig into this too. We had to look into it. It's a wild allegation. Again, I get it. Catholic Church and UFOs. We've been trying to get reaction from the Vatican. We've been working behind the scenes, and joining me live steps from the Vatican right now is NewsNation executive producer Susanna Pinto. She was previously a Rome-based reporter who has also worked in the Vatican press office. Thank you for being on with us tonight, Susie. I've got to ask you, you've been working on this for quite some time. You're in Rome. What have you been able to learn from Vatican officials about what David Grusch had claimed to us in that interview?
Good evening, Brian. You can see St. Peter's Basilica behind me, perhaps the most iconic and powerful symbol of the Catholic Church around the world. And yes, as you said, this is a shocking claim. The fact that the allegation that the Vatican might have known about non-human intelligence on Earth. So I've reached out to the Vatican press office for comment. The Vatican has not responded. Now, that's not unusual. This is a highly controversial issue, and it's not unusual for the Vatican to not want to comment on such a controversy. Also, though, if there were credible information about life on another planet, life in another part of the universe, it would also bring up a lot of theological questions and a lot of debate. And so it's not surprising that the Vatican doesn't want to speculate on this issue right now.
I know you've been trying for at least the last week or so to get a response from the Vatican. Do you expect that something will come out eventually, or are they just saying, like, no comment, we are never going to talk about this?
Well, look, we do know that the archives pertaining to Pope Pius XII's pontificate have been open to scholars and historians. That happened in 2020. Pope Francis announced that he was going to open up the archives to historians and scholars. So that they have been looking into his pontificate. And of course, it was a long pontificate. He was Pope from 1939 to 1958. So far, there have been a couple of books that have come out from historians. They focus more on the Pope and World War II, but that's not to say that a historian or a scholar could continue to dig into those archives and find something. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes out, and that could take a long time because, like as I said, it was a long pontificate, and there's every Pope communicates with a lot of people. There's a lot of official communication with not only heads of states and presidents, but also different associations and parishes. So it'll take quite some time to go through all of that information.
Yeah, it's interesting that they are just now releasing within the last couple of years Pope Pius XII's official archive. I just think back to like a presidential archive, a presidential library where they have all the documents. Those are usually only documents for 8 years. Pope Pius XII was there for 20 years. And you mentioned it, the people who have been reviewing the archives so far, and only certain people have been let in, were more interested in other topics related to World War II. It just seems like a lot to go through. I wonder if anyone has even gone through everything to see if there is something in writing related to UAPs from that time period.
Brian, I'm sure there's a long line of historians and scholars who want to get into those archives and actually dig through. So, I think this is something that is going to play out over years and maybe even decades. So far we haven't heard that type of information come out, and there's been no information published about that. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes out. We're talking about so much content from a pontificate, whether those are official letters, communications, all sorts of things that a pope does. And of course that was many years ago, but still the Pope is a figure that communicates with not only Catholics but the world. So there's just a ton of information to go through.
It's interesting, though. I mean, the idea that the Vatican might know something related to this it isn't really that far-fetched. I don't think a lot of people realize that they have a whole unit of the Vatican dedicated to studying astronomy.
That's right. The Vatican has a Vatican Observatory that dates back to the 16th century. So for the last 400 years, that observatory has been dedicated to studying astronomy, astrophysics, and really just the origins of the universe. So it's something that not a lot of people know about. It is dedicated to sort of the connection between faith and reason. So the Vatican says that their faith inspires the science that they're studying, and yeah, so that observatory is outside Rome, just not too far from here, near the papal summer residence. And they are very active, and they do all sorts of things. In fact, just this summer, they resumed their summer school for scholars and also students, undergraduates and graduate students who come to the Vatican Observatory for 4 weeks, and they discuss all these sorts of things, all the latest in astronomy and astrophysics. And that resumed after a 5-year hiatus. They had to take a break during COVID.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.